Over the last 6 months, my two brothers and I have been going through boxes filled with wonderful memories of our folks that they left us over all these years. Christmas pictures that would be taken very early in the fall so they could be turned into Christmas cards. I don't know if you knew this, before there was Snapfish. You would take the Christmas picture like in June, and then away it would go and all these cards would come back. And so there we would be standing in the street with a big sign that says, "Merry Christmas from the Worths," and people would look at us really strangely. But to see those, and to see this 60-year-old light standard that now my brother puts in his window, that my grandmother had in her window for years and years and years. They still work. Ornaments that hung on the Christmas tree, which when we would do a Christmas tree, we would set the lights on it, white lights, down at the fairgrounds where we would buy the tree in Great Falls, and then they would flock over it and it would glow through the flock. It was the most wonderful thing. One thing that I was really looking hard for and I could not find was the first present that I bought my father with my own money at Woolworth's on Central Avenue in Great Falls. Probably it was in 1961 or so. It was a blue and white plastic thing, a white frame around a blue interior. It was probably 8 inches wide, 6 inches tall, and it had this holder for a candle behind it. And when the candle was installed and then lit, you could all of a sudden magically see on the front of this thing a cityscape, pictures of buildings, and there flying over all the buildings was, of course, Santa Claus and the reindeer. It was the coolest thing I ever saw in my life. And year after year after year, we'd pull that out of the box and we would light it. It kind of had this waxy finish on it, and it was strange, but you know, there it would have this place of honor in our home. As I think back to that particular gift a half century ago, I'm really grateful for two things. The first is, of course, that my dad got such joy out of it. Almost as much joy as I got, I think. And the second thing is that we didn't burn the house down because of it. It must have been horribly flammable. For all I know, after I left for college, it finally melted until one day when it was ceremonially retired. For my mom, my brothers and I would pool our cash, and then we'd go buy a box of chocolate-covered cherries, again from Woolworths. And last year, I gave her a very small box of that. It was the last Christmas present I gave her for old time's sake. And as usual, she shared them with great liberality. What I never knew was that she never liked chocolate-covered cherries. But we sure did. So it worked out just fine. But it's that Santa Claus scene that I really am kind of pining for, that I'm thinking about a lot for some reason this year, and I think I know why. If you listen really closely to the Gospel according to Luke, there's this curious thing that happens within the context of the Christmas story. I mean, we all know Jesus' birth happened in history because Luke makes absolutely certain that it's tied to historical figures. We also know the circumstances of his birth were radically different than really what you would expect of a king. Remember, Gabriel had come to Mary and said that this Jesus would reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there would be absolutely no end. But kings do not get placed into a feeding trough for animals. And we know that shepherds were made aware of the birth, and then they went with haste to find the Holy Family. What we miss sometimes is a very subtle thing. Luke tells us that it was the shepherds who told Mary and Joseph what was so absolutely spectacular and extraordinary about this particular birth. Listen again to what the angel said to them when they were in the field, that they then relayed to Mary and Joseph. "Be not afraid, for behold, I bring you great news, or good news of a great joy, which will come to all the people. For to you is born this day in the city of David, who is Christ the Lord." They shared this news with Joseph and Mary, and special mention was then made by Luke of Mary hearing that and then pondering that in her heart. Our common assumption is that Mary knew everything that was going on, that she was very aware of what was happening to her. And that was certainly the message of the gospel, the story of the Annunciation on the fourth Sunday of Advent several days ago. But the reality is that until those shepherds showed up, it seems that Mary and Joseph were not fully aware of what was transpiring. In short, it was the shepherds, who we should remember were about as low as anyone could be on the social register for Bethlehem, hardly A-list people coming to dinner. These shepherds were the one who then illuminated much to Mary and Joseph concerning the meaning behind this holy birth. There it was, kind of like that gift that I gave my dad so many years ago. The fact of the event at hand, with both the depiction of Santa, his sleigh and the reindeer, as well as the birth of Jesus, was not fully seen until there was a light behind it to let meaning show through. And just as that candle made that happen with one of Woolworth's greatest gifts they ever made, so too was the case of the greeting that was brought to Mary and Joseph by those shepherds. You and I have been called now to a remarkable station in life. We're not unlike those shepherds, having been told momentous news, and now it's up to us to get out into the world, near and far, and let folks know what happened years ago in that manger in Bethlehem. And it's not just about the fact of a birth, but more importantly, it's about the meaning behind this great event, illuminating it for people who are weary with the world and the way it works or doesn't work, as the case may be. In a time in which tension and trouble abounds, and our newspapers tell of it every single day, including this morning, we, because of tonight, know something about the insurmountable love and overwhelming grace of God, which says that we are not just united to the Word which became flesh dwelling among us full of glory, but we also know that because of Christmas, we are beloved. And when I say we are beloved, all of us are beloved. The totality of humanity is beloved. The totality of creation is beloved. And we've been forgiven. And we've been united with Him. And we've been empowered, like those shepherds, to now become world changers, connecting the dots of this wonderful thing that happened so long ago with today. It's extraordinary. I want to suggest one last thing with respect to this. I think it was about 11 or 12 years ago tonight that I was returning from celebrating the Eucharist and preaching at the late services in Troy and Libby. And for those of you not familiar with this part of Montana, Troy and Libby are right next to Canada and Idaho. So it's quite of a drive. And I live down in Big Fork, which is 45 miles away from here. So anyway, this had me getting home at about 2 or 3 in the morning, Christmas Day. And as I approached the last 6/10 of a mile from my home, I noticed this shiny new SUV with probably every bell and whistle on it stopped in the middle of the road, right there. So it's now 2:33 in the morning. I'm a little worried about what's going on. Thinking that something was wrong, I got out and I went to the driver's side, and the window went down, and this weary man looked at me and he said, "I just want to get over there. I just want to get there, to that house over there. How do I do it?" Well, it seems that this wonderful vehicle that he and his family had rented at the airport when their midnight flight got in, undoubtedly late, as they often do, the GPS navigational system failed to mention that the bridge over the Swan River had been taken out, and we were awaiting a new one going in. It had been removed in anticipation of this new bridge. And this poor, exhausted man could see the house he wanted to be at 150 feet away. And he could not get there because, unfortunately, there was a river in the way. Now, as someone in the neighborhood who had traveled the new route probably, 100 to 150 times, it was pretty easy for me to direct him home for Christmas, and he followed me around. You and I stand at the event of the Nativity with directions on how to connect this blessed moment with the lives of all of those around us. That's the good news of tonight. A lot of folks are really searching, begging, pleading, yearning to try and find a bridge of redemption to help them through their journey of life. And they get it tonight, but they need to be told it. Wonderfully, it turns out that we are shepherds who can relay what it is we have been told. We are a simple candle that can light up that which is pretty hidden sometimes. We are those who can say something which can lead another to sanctuary. In short, what draws us here tonight can actually draw this wounded world together again. O holy night, O graceful, redemptive, forgiving, sweet relief. O come, let us adore him indeed. Amen.